Alright, so we're gonna react to a video. It's a video by Linkus. It's called The Rise and Fall of Speedrunning. Very interesting topic here. So let's dive into this, and see what happens. Alright, The Rise and Fall of Speedruns by Linkus. Very exciting video. Let's go ahead.
When you hear the term speedrun, what game comes to mind? Depending on who you ask, you will get a lot of different answers to this question. But the most important answer, hands down, is Super Mario 64. Since pretty much the launch of Twitch as a platform, two games dominated the speedrunning scene. Siglemic with his legendary Super Mario 64 speedruns, and Narcissa with their legendary Ocarina of Time speedruns. But what makes some speedruns stand out above the rest? How is it that Super Mario 64 continues to be one of the most popular speedrun games out there, and only some of the sequels have been able to capture a similar audience? Let's look at some speedruns to see why. First, someone that is slightly newer to the speedrun, and is averaging about a 1 hour time in the 70-star category in Super Mario 64. At this point, they're still way off top times, but already when watching one of these speedruns, a casual viewer will still be incredibly impressed by what they're witnessing. The sort of jumps that they're going for, and how they favor dives and short hops instead of just walking around, already makes for a great watching experience. And yet, when watching a top-level speedrunner of the game, the average viewer can still notice the gameplay difference between these two runners. While one runner might slow down for a short section after a dive, you can tell that a top-level speedrunner preserves the momentum much better. You might not understand that was due to this incredibly difficult maneuver called the speed kick, but that isn't what matters. The most important aspect isn't knowing how tricky that maneuver was, but rather how visually impressive their movement is. This jump I demonstrated earlier in TikTok Clock, while still impressive to the average viewer, what the top level speedrunner does is even more insane, jumping on the platform effortlessly, even though they're rotating at full speed. I could give so many more examples in this game, but I think that sums up my point pretty well. No matter what skill level, the average viewer has only experienced the game casually, will find either one of these two speedruns amazing to watch. I still remember the very first time I saw a speedrun.
True.
It was back in 2012, and I was scrolling through Facebook. Yeah, I know, Facebook. Listen, this was 2012. Facebook. Things were a lot different back then.
True.
Someone had posted a clip of the final 10 minutes of Siglemic's 120-star record, and even my normie friends, who had never played Super Mario 64 before, were impressed by this clip. Because even if you hadn't played the game, seeing the absurd jumps that he went for blew people away. Yeah. How could someone be this good and this fast at a video game? And all of this combined motivates people to pick up and speedrun games like this for themselves. If a game requires hundreds of hours of practice before you can start having fun, then it will deter the majority of people away from ever speedrunning the game in the first place. But that's the beauty of Super Mario 64. It can be fun to speedrun and watch at all skill levels. And I think that simple fact plays a huge role in why only some of the later Mario games have been able to capture a similar audience to Super Mario 64. Take a look at Super Mario Galaxy, for example. Galaxy sold more copies worldwide than 64 ever did.
Really?
But I'm sure that a lot of you guys watching this video have never even watched a Galaxy speedrun before. And that is because the movement is so much more restrictive. A knowledgeable speedrunner will immediately be able to tell the difference between an average runner and a top-level speedrunner. But to your average Twitch viewer, there might be some impressive gravity tricks used here and there, but for the most part, it's just jumping around everywhere in the game. The tiny details like cutting corners ever so slightly closer to save milliseconds here and there, this time does add up, but it's not enough to keep as many people interested. And then there are games like Super Mario Odyssey, which not only has very creative...
It's not enough to keep people interested. I wonder. Anyway, let's just keep watching.
...creative movement, but also has a much more open world. The movement allows for a highly optimized and visually impressive gameplay, very similar to Mario 64. And the open world aspect cuts out a lot of the downtime that you would see in other Mario games, because when you pick up a moon, it doesn't pull you out of the world, and there's no need for re-entry. Yeah. Instead, you can just continue on like normal.
That's what I like so much about Odyssey.
This also gives viewers another opportunity to differentiate runners at different skill levels, because you will notice differences in the routes that the runners take, depending on what moons they go for in the speedrun themselves. But all of these games I've talked about so far fixate mainly on movement. So what about games that don't focus as heavily on movement? It's time to dive into what might be the most controversial part of this video. Let's talk about glitch-heavy speedruns, and why sometimes more glitches doesn't always make the speedrun better.
Glitches doesn't always make speedruns better, okay.
Ocarina of Time has been in the forefront of speedrunning for almost a decade.
I remember this strat. This strat, I used to think this strat is so cool. It's one of the first I learned, but they don't really do it anymore.
At this point. And a huge part of what made Ocarina of Time so popular in the first place is its use of glitches. I think what made people so fascinated in these speedruns is seeing their childhood game absolutely destroyed. The very first time you saw someone beat the Deku Tree and then roam up to the very end of the game was mind-blowing. How could something like this even be possible? Just seeing someone go from the first era of the game all the way to the very end of the game was astonishing. Unfortunately, despite being very visually impressive at first, these kind of runs get fairly stale pretty quickly. You barely get to see anything of the game you loved. And that's why 90% was never the most popular category for Ocarina of Time speedrunning.
Yeah.
So people were drawn to the 100% speedrun.
Yeah.
You still tried to beat the game as fast as possible, but now you had to collect everything in the
You see, this is, okay, we can make a whole video on this one point, and it goes back to the point that people have brought up a lot with the new 90% that exists in Ocarina of Time. He might talk about it soon, but Ace is the worst thing. In my opinion, Ace was, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing that happened. Ace is just a really, really boring speedrun to watch. If you watch an Ace speedrun, like the Ace 90% speedrun in Ocarina of Time for the first time, it's like, holy shit. That was cool. Some people would think like, what the hell just happened? I don't understand. That was stupid. But Ace is a good example of that. It's like you're not playing Ocarina of Time when you do Ace 90%. It's like a 7-minute category. It's like, what is even going on? And then the game's over. Like, who wants to watch that? You know, that is the way I see it. That's the way most people see it, I think. My view is you shouldn't call Ace any percent. Any percent should still be the defeat Ganon category, the old school 90%, because when people come into speedrunning, the first thing they think of and the first category that they learn about in speedrunning is any percent. Any percent is like the bread and butter of speedrunning. So when people get into OT and they see any percent and they see the Ace speedrun, they're like, what the fuck is this? There's no substance to the Ace run. If that's the first thing they see, then there's not going to be a lot of interest in the actual OT speedrunning, because that run is not nearly as good as any of the other runs that exist in OT, in my opinion. And that's why I think they should keep Defeat Ganon as any percent. But yeah, what Linkus said is what I say all the time, what a lot of people say about OT. 100% is very interesting, because 100% you actually get to play the game of Zelda, which is an amazing game, and do all the side quests and stuff, which is the best part about Zelda. You do all of that, and you do really cool glitches in the process as well. So it does make sense as to why 100% is so much more popular than pretty much all the 90% categories.
The game. And this gave a great mix of gameplay and glitches. A balance in between speed and time.
Yes.
For example, if the
That's why I learned OT 100%. I think it's such a good category.
Player had to go across all of Hyrule Field to enter Gerudo Valley. They don't simply run there. They would roll into a bomb and perform a precise trick to preserve their high knockback speed of a bomb, allowing them to effortlessly glide there. And another great example is when a player goes to a dungeon. Instead of playing the Song of Time to remove a block, why not just clip inside of the block and skip the song entirely?
I love that trick.
There are so many tricks I could mention.
Dragai.
Cutscene skips, bottle dupes, weird shots, void warps, the list goes on and on. There are plenty of tricks in this run that the average viewer might not understand completely. However, most viewers could still follow along the progression of the speedrun. Even if the viewer didn't know how something was happening, they at least knew what was happening. And for those that wanted to dive deeper into the speedrun, learning the mechanics of the tricks used throughout the run made watching runs even more rewarding. Having that deeper knowledge and understanding added another level of depth and enjoyment for the viewer. This is blatantly obvious when you look at the most successful speedruns performed at GameStop Quick events. Zelda speedruns at GDQs have always been a fan favorite. They provide a rare opportunity for viewers, because not only do you get to see the entirety of a speedrun, but you also get live commentary and insights of the tricks from a handful of seasoned runners, which means you get that understanding and the speedrun at the same time. But I think this is where the Zelda community has become very divided. For the longest time, this is how Zelda speedrunning has been. But recently, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask ended up opening up the Pandora's box of glitches, and everything changed.
Oh boy.
In
The juicy stuff. Oh boy. Let's get into it.
enters the age of Ace and SRM.
Yep.
These two tricks alone brought upon significant change in how we view Zelda speedruns. Ace stands for Arbitrary Code Execution, and SRM stands for Stale Reference Manipulation. Both of these glitches are incredibly complicated to explain, and this video isn't about explaining how these glitches work. Rather, this is about how these glitches morphed Zelda speedruns irreversibly. In very simple terms, these two glitches lets the player basically interact directly with the game's code. Unlike anything
I've never understood this. I've seen this so much in like the practice codes and shit. I've never once understood how the fuck do people get this, and how would you like? I look at this and I'm like, I don't care about that. Like, I don't want to know what the fuck that is. But like, people would mess with this shit, dude, and go crazy, and just figure out all this shit, and it's just crazy.
you've ever seen before. Ace basically allows you to write new code into the game by doing very specific actions. And SRM allows the player to call for any instructions that already exists in the game's code. Well, want a specific item in the game? Well, just call the instruction in the game and give you all the items. Want all 20 hearts straight away? Well, there's an instruct for that too. Want to beat the game? Well, why not just load the instruction that has the credits of the game? Why even bother beating Ganon, or leaving the first area of the game for that matter? You get the idea. I'm simplifying a lot of things here, but it is undeniable that these glitches fundamentally changed how future speedruns for this game would work. These games would never be the same. That's the reason why N64 Zelda games have caused this great divide. To the average Twitch viewer who just loved seeing their childhood game speedrun, there's barely anything left that resembles their favorite Zelda game now. It's hard for many of them to actually connect the same way they used to. However, for the audience that relishes in discovery and loves to push a game to its boundaries of what is possible in a video game, the technical details behind these revelations are a fascinating marvel achieved by years years of research. And after this diploma, the two N64 Zelda speedrun communities took two very different approaches to this matter. The Majora's Mask community, for example, decided to make no SRM the default speedrun category for their longer ones, such as 100%.
Oh, right, no, that's good. That's good.
However, the Ocarina of Time community decided to stick with SRM as its default. Now, I see.
And this is the fucking issue, dude. It's like, people don't realize that the simple thing of just having SRM as the default on speedrun.com makes it so that people get confused. Because people don't understand that even if you have the filters and stuff, people don't see that shit. And it's the internet. People are very fucking lazy on the internet. They see something that pops up in their face and they believe it right off the bat. They don't see the no SRM tag, the filters. Like, having SRM as the default is, I think, the most important thing that needs to be changed.
I see a lot of people already asking in the comment section, why don't you just speedrun the game without these glitches? And people definitely do. But the reality is that viewers care a lot about leaderboards. The fact that the speedrunning community uses these glitches deters a lot of people away from watching these runs. And as a speedrunner, you also care about your name being at the top of the 100% category. Being placed into a subcategory and not the main 100% category only further reduces the amount of runners that want to run it. And all of these factors has drastically shifted the perspective that viewers will have on these speedruns. However, despite everything I've mentioned so far,
Linkus basically took the words from my mouth. I could kiss him right now. Well, I can kiss him anytime he wants.
there's one major thing I haven't brought up yet, and that is the impact of content creators. Content creators play a vital role in every online community, and speedrunning is no exception. Think about it. If you're a speedrunner watching this video right now, how did you find speedrunning? And what made you interested in picking it up in the first place? I'm sure the majority of you saw a speedrun by a Twitch streamer or a YouTube video on it and decided to look further into it. Content creators are essential in terms of keeping a community alive, because it continues to bring new runners and glitch hunters into the hobby that we love, which in return allows for more discoveries and more competition, keeping it even more interesting.
What the fuck was this run? Minus 42. Oh, this is my PB. Forgot about this. It's my PB run.
For both viewers and for long-term speedrunners of that game. Ocarina of Time is a great example of this. If no bigger content creators were streaming this game, there probably wouldn't have been so many glitch discoveries made over the years. It's the community that keeps that game alive, and most of those community members wouldn't have gotten into the hobby to begin with if it wasn't for these streamers or videos online talking about these games.
Very true.
And this doesn't just apply to Nintendo games, but all speedruns. While researching this video, I reached out to Dark Viper, who is mostly known for his GTA 5 speedruns. He linked to this amazing graph that he made, showing how despite GTA 5 being the third best-selling game of all time, only 2 years after the launch of the game, the speedrun community was almost non-existent. It was very stagnant. There were only a few active runners, but once he and Friendly Baron, just to name a few creators, started making videos about GTA 5 speedrunning, the leaderboard and the active runners exploded, and more time saves and discoveries kept being found thanks to this huge influx of speedrunners jumping into the scene, especially thanks to the Speedrunner vs. Casual series that was released back in 2019.
Yeah,
and he
probably.
also noted that the only reason why he decided to even try out GTA 5 speedrunning to begin with was when a well-known Boshi speedrunner known as Witwix decided to do a few runs of the category because he liked GTA and he was into speedrunning. And there are many more elements that goes into this. There are countless examples of content creators pushing a speedrunning community, and the most recent example would be Minecraft. Love it or hate it, Dream with his legendary speedrunning videos on Minecraft absolutely
Dream. Gross.
pushed that scene into the mainstream eye. And two big content creators on the Twitch platform, XQZ and Forsen, who decided to do this massive race and who could get the first sub 30 in Minecraft, made millions of people discover the world of Minecraft speedrunning. I'm sure that there are plenty of people who had never watched or heard of Minecraft speedrunning until last year, despite it being speedrun for years at this point. But with all of this being said, what is my opinion in this entire situation? I've mostly been focusing on the kind of breakdown aspect, so I thought it would be more than fair to give my take on the matter. Well, I'm personally an advocate for allowing some outside factors to be taken into account when it comes to making up speedrunning rules. For example, Breath of the Wild 100%. Most speedrun communities do not allow any breaks, but because Breath of the Wild speedrunning is so long for the 100% category, reaching around 20 hours for top level speedrunners and usually 50 hours or so when you're doing your first or second run of the game, the community realized that they had to do something about it. So they ended up allowing specific set of rules for how much you are allowed to pause the timer for and how long you can take a break for. Meaning that people can actually take an 8-hour sleep break now, after they've been playing for 10-15 hours. And I think that is a very good change. It allows a lot more people to speedrun the game. The community has many more people interested in category thanks to it. And I know it technically goes against the purity of some speedrun communities' rule sets, but I think overall, it doesn't really have that many negative impacts and only really has a lot of positive impacts. And I think those are
it's fine, dude.
Great. I also, however, do not think that there should be an overall rule that should be applied to all video games, because I think that individual communities are the best on deciding these things. And I also think this
I think that's a really good idea. Like, that totally makes sense to me.
Video, I focused mostly on the viewer aspect of, giving a little bit of insight into, what helps a lot when it comes to making a speedrun very popular viewer-wise. I first want to make it very clear that I don't think actually that's the most important aspect of speedrunning. I've speedrun plenty of games that are not popular. I've speedrun Super Mario Galaxy myself, which was an example I used of a game that doesn't have as interesting movement. And I don't want it to come off in a way where it seems like I'm saying that it's a bad speedrun. I do not think so. I think speedrunning should be about having fun. This video is purely just kind of informative about what I think kind of
speedrun, having fun, those things don't go together, bro. What the fuck is fun about speedrunning? We're here to get world records and destroy people, not have fun. Don't listen to Linkus, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Kind of goes into helping a speedrun be more popular in terms of viewerships. And I do think that a part of making a speedrunning rule set should take, how enjoyable the speedrun actually is into an account. But it also shouldn't be the most important decision, and it shouldn't be the deciding factor. But I've seen a lot of communities throughout the years pretty much just say that, outside factors like enjoyment or, health is not even part of the concern or the discussion at all, right? It's purely about the game. And in my opinion, I think that should change a little bit.
Holy shit! I can marry Linkus right now. That was so beautifully fucking said. I need to listen to that again.
Enjoyment or, health is not even part of the concern or the discussion at all, right? It's purely about the game. And in my opinion, I think that should change a little bit. I think that other factors is important, because if you want to make the rules as pure as possible and all those rule changes that you're making is just making the speedrun a hell of a lot worse, eventually almost no one wants to run the game. And it's going to end up hurting the community more than if you broke off from that purity mindset a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's my personal opinion on it.
Yes. God, yes. Fuck my ass. Dude, that was beautifully said. God damn. It really is. Like, I have had those moments where I felt tired of the idea that it's just about the game. It's 100% about the game. Nothing else matters. And then when people have concerns or questions that don't necessarily have to do with the game, but revolve around the game and the community, people tend to shove off those questions or make fun of them. And these are very important things. It's so nice to hear another prominent speedrunner on CLG, Team CLG for the win, talking about this. It's nice.
But yeah, either way, I guess the final note I want to end this off on is speedrun a video game because you think it's fun, but if you are someone that is a little bit more focused on numbers or you're just interested in these kind of topics in general, then I hope I was able to give you some insight into that. But yeah, either way, thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel because remember that 100,000 subscribers. So yeah, thank you so much for watching.
I'm not subscribing, Linkus, okay? Don't tell me to subscribe. I'm already subscribed. That was great. I'm in love with Linkus now. Holy shit. I agree with every word he said in the entire video. It's basically everything that I'm thinking. Just amazing. It's fucking crazy. Great video. I really want to read the comments for a bit. This is gonna be a little bit sexy. I was just talking about Ocarina speedruns and how they've become extremely boring. That's what I see all the viewers saying, dude. All the viewers say that same thing. What many casual speedrun viewers want is very similar to sports fans. See a game they know and love played at the highest level. When you watch certain runs, Portal, OT come to mind. It's like I'm watching a totally different game and it's hard to really appreciate what's going on. It's why I love ZFG, who only goes for longer speedruns because any percent is more cutscene than gameplay. It's not only about any percent though. It's about SRM versus no SRM. When people watch SRM 100%, they're like, what on earth is going on? It doesn't look like OOT, the game they know and love anymore. It doesn't give them the nostalgic thrill of watching the original 100% of OOT. You know, when you're watching like a young Link with a blue fucking tunic flying around in the air, it's just like, it takes away the whole OOT nostalgic speedrun factor. I watched one of ZFG's new runs and I can't even finish it. I've been going back like a year and watching runs, realizing that it was massive glitches that are in it now, just not from me, unfortunately. Yeah, this is what most viewers think. It's the same thing. CFG is my favorite runner, and even though I have no idea what he's doing half the time, it's still entertaining to see OT broken like that. This is why I love watching randomizers of these games. Speedruns are fantastic when you get a record, but get boring watching the same glitches reset over and over again at the simplest of things. I totally fucking agree. It's even worse when you're actually speedrunning it. Here we go. This is what I was saying earlier. I've always found Ace/SRM based runs to be fun to watch exactly once. After you see someone do a bunch of weird, seemingly meaningless actions, I just lose interest. It's exactly, this sums it all up. This is the perfect comment. They're great to watch once and be like, what on earth was that? Oh, that's cool. That's a cool trick, I guess. They figured out how to break the game and jump to the credits. But apart from that, who really gives a fuck? People want to see the game being played fast and the cool tricks that they know and love be done, and they want to see them try to get a PB in it and break records. But they like watching Ace and SRM after you see it once. It's like, I'm more than good enough. And that's why, going back to the speedrun.com thing that like Linkus said, people are not going to use the filters. You can't have SRM and Ace as the default things on the leaderboards. You just like, that just makes no sense, bro. And I just hope people see this, bro. For some reason, people in the community, they tend to not realize that it's about the viewers. It's about the new people that are coming in to OT, that go to the websites, to the leaderboards and stuff. Those are the ones that you need to capture to want to be like, oh, I want to try to speedrun this game. Not make them see a category and be like, what the fuck am I watching? There's no way I can figure this out. I would never speedrun this game. Which is 100% what happens to actual people that want to speedrun OOT. They don't, because they see these crazy things and be like, what on earth? I'm not going to try that. Big glitch discoveries such as Holy Grails definitely bring more popularity to the game, as long as it isn't super busted like SRM or Ace. Paper Mario speedrunning blew up in 2012-2013 after Blue House Skip was discovered, and you had big runners like I Eat Your Pie and Narcissa. Of course, there was also WWHD Barrier Skip when you and Gymnast were trading records. Yep. One of ZRG's next categories is apparently going to be 100% no SRM, which can hopefully help with some of the casual viewership problems we brought up in this video, since he brought a lot of people into the game by just virtue of his content creation and also how he dominated the category for so long. I also think that although Breath of the Wild 100% sets a good example by allowing breaks for long categories, it still doesn't go far enough for what can make long runs approachable. Mario speedruns are very easy to follow. They collect stars, perform amazing movement, and so on. Zelda's are not that big of an exception, but with SRM and Ace, it becomes very hard to watch and understand for casual runners, for casual players who don't know what's happening. Content creators help to bring more audience to any community. If there are people who want to see very complex and glitch heavy speedruns, they will definitely find some. But if people want to see something that being beaten without glitches, I'm certain they'll find those too. There's many categories to watch for anyone. Yeah, sure, you're right. The health in speedrunning really is important, bro. Bro, health in speedrunning needs to be like, it needs to be like a whole community that's started, because it really is important, dude. I really don't want to try to bring down anybody in terms of like how they look, problems that they're going through, or any sort of condition that somebody might have. There's a lot of speedrunners, and not only speedrunners, but gaming in general, but especially, I know speedrunning because I've been in it, so I could speak for speedrunning. A lot of speedrunners are either practicing an unhealthy lifestyle or just need to kind of be reassured in what they're doing in speedrunning. I don't know how to say this without sounding weird or hurtful, but like sitting down playing a game for 12 hours a day and not eating well and not doing other things, it is unhealthy, and I think those are things that should be talked about in the speedrunning community. And just sharing health in speedrunning it really is important. You can be a great top speedrunner or gamer without never leaving your house and without eating really shitty or not doing anything else, or thinking that if you don't spend 12 hours a day on the game that you're not going to be good enough. That kind of shit needs to be talked about. Alright, cool. Great video. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I think that's it for today's stream, so I will be going offline right now. It's been fun, like the kids say. It's been a good time. I enjoyed my stay.